at that picture up there with the gate
Yeah,
fence,
yeah,
all you can see is white.
that's all you can see.
Now, I know the guy that did that, and in fact, he did it for me in New York City. You gotta remember that leather's gonna oxidize.
Mhm.
And every minute that that oxidizes, your white is gonna get brighter, or at least look brighter.
Mhm.
So when you put your white down on something like that, if you can't see it, it's just right. Just wait a little while, it will make an appearance. I'd like to mention one thing about white dye.
Mhm.
Some of you know the job I used to have, but I had people yelling for white spirit dye. And I said, there is no white spirit dye. Oh yeah, there is, thieving time.
It's like milk,
Huh?
looks like milk.
Well, all it is white pigments and water.
In water, that's what it's like milk.
And you cannot take the
Let
red
me
spirit.
finish.
Oh, I'm
Let
sorry.
me finish. The reason Thievings makes it to this day is because there's a demand for it. No other reason, because it's absolutely worthless. It's chalk wire.
Yep,
That's all it is.
I agree.
And that's all it will ever be, because you can't mix alcohol with white pigments. They turn, I say baby shit yellow.
I was trying to make pink
Like
one
this
time.
color.
And I took the red spirit dye with the white phoebes, and that was, that's a disaster. Yeah, these two things ran away from each other and then they hurtled.
In your
Geez.
It's time for somebody to put a little yellow with it. Make it
Brown
You mean
acrylic.
discontinued? I'm not.
In the white, in the white acrylic, brown acrylic and the white. And like I say, you don't need but just a touch of the.
You remember when George did
Just
the
make
eagle
sure that-
feather, Josh?
I'm sorry?
You remember when George did the eagle feather, painted it into you?
When was
You
that?
missed that one.
I might not have been here.
Yeah.
But now you kind of see the green is kind of fading into the yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all you're gonna do is reverse your direction with the other colors, is what I did here. I just reversed it with red and orange. You know.
Reverse, you mean your brush strokes where you're
Yeah,
lifting?
I'm going the opposite way that the flow is going. You know, the flow is typically going this way and fans out. Well, I'm just gonna start with the red, kind of heavy at the tips, and fade it this way. And then
So you got two fades meeting instead of.
exactly.
Okay.
So then,
Right, yeah,
then you kind of, I don't know. It seems to work a little bit better for me in that regard. And here I've got heavy red in the middle of the flower, and then orange tips on the outside. Because again, I want my lighter colors because I got a dark background on the edge. And some of your heavy cut lines, like where the stem goes, I take stronger concentration and put it in. It kind of builds up a shadow, and that helps give you a little bit more definition there. That's really basically all I do. I don't reinvent the wheel.
Marlon, do you find these dyes tend to hold their color over time better than some of the others?
You know, I don't know. I haven't had any fade on me yet, but I mean, I've seen pieces that have been last for 20 years, but the dye is gone. You know.
Does that tend to happen?
Yeah, typically spirit dyes will fade out over time. So a lot of people like Peter, when he dyes, he oversaturates it because over time it's gonna fade out, especially with sunlight. It'll pull it out. The acrylics won't do that. Acrylics will stay pretty much forever. But like George was saying, when you use white, if you don't dilute it a little bit with brown, it'll stand out like a sore thumb, and it'll look horrible. But I've done some acrylics with the Jim Liddell class on the Longhorn, and that's all he uses pretty much is acrylics on his pieces, and you can water those down. I don't typically use solvent for that, just water for those to thin them out. But you can kind of build up the color a little bit faster with the acrylics. because it's sitting on top of the leather. You don't have to wait for it to penetrate and evaporate and all of that. But I would, that's the same way I would do acrylics is the way I do dye. I just like the way the dyes look a little bit better.
I like the dyes.
Yep. So, any questions yet, you know? I'm doing. Is there anything that doesn't make sense?
Very good demo.
I can
job.
not make sense a lot.
But you practice.
Just, I practice on it.
What was the
I practice
name of this art store where you got all those brushes?
Hazel.
Hazel Art.
Hazel.
Hazel Art. It's down on 7th Street, and it's a street, Folk Street, F-O-C-K.
Bailey or something.
F-O.
Right, I know where it's at. It's on West Seventh.
Yeah. If you know where the new In-N-Out Burger is.
No, but I know where Fox.
7th and Fox.
Fox.
F-O-C-H-E-S.
F-O-C-H. 7th and
I
Fox. It's
know
in a
where
little
it's at.
strip center.
Yeah, be careful how you say that.
Children in the place. All right. Meet the Fockers, right?
I had Fitz finding quality brushes.
And and I'm gonna tell you, brushes ain't cheap. The good ones, not cheap at all.
No, I bought some three $12 brushes, and I'm real careful.
Well, the thing I like about these, and they are sable brushes, and they are one of the most expensive. But Hazel Art usually has these on sale, and if they are, a lot of times they're gone. The sizes that I want. I usually buy number 5, and it's a all-around general brush, good brush.
Something else about that art store, I buy stuff down there too. And if you're military, retired, they will give you
a discount. See, that's even better.
Yeah.
I go in there fairly often. I haven't been in a while, but I used to go in there almost twice a week because I was looking for number 5 sable brushes.
Yeah.
And they don't have them this week. Okay, I'll be back next week, and I'll come back and then I got 2. And I'll pick them up.
That's a neat store.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really
So you
nice.
pretty much use that number 5 for everything?
For pretty much everything. I bought a number 4 one time because I needed a brush for a different color that I didn't have a brush for because I used the same brush for the specific colors.
Always.
Yeah, if I like my green, it's only green. I don't use it for anything else.
So even after you clean them, you still use it for?
I use it.
Another
I've labeled them. If you see on the back, I've just printed out something with green color, and it's got greens on it. And I just tape it. I just cellophane tape it on there. That way, when I pull it out, okay, that's green. I know that's what I'm gonna use it for.
And don't mix your brushes.
Yeah, because
Don't
what
use
happens
your
is
alcohol-based brushes with your Cova color brushes.
Yeah, don't
Mix your
things.
acrylics and your dyes and your paints.
What
Don't
happens
ever
is,
mix them.
especially with dyes, that green is gonna sit right here at the ferrule.
Yeah,
And no matter how much you clean it, it's gonna be green.
it's
right
always
there.
gonna be
So when
green.
you break it back out,
When you come back with yellow with it, green's gonna come out.
Green is gonna start
It's
weeding.
gonna
if it
weep
gets
out.
moist, it's gonna weep out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna come out.
It's gonna bleed.
Yep.
Wow.
So, that's another little tip. What else?
Just keep
Oh, that's
separate
good to know for
scents.
me. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm not an
and
artist at
when
all.
you clean them, I don't have a thing here, but when I clean my brushes, I take this, and it actually shows it in that Peter Main's book. But you take a bunch of paper towels, and you sit it on the paper towel like that, and you squeeze this out, and then roll it as you
Flood
squeeze it. You flood it, and just roll it, and you'll see it just bleed right into the paper. And pretty soon it comes out pretty clean, and you just roll it to a point and put it up.
I always put it in my mouth and go. I do.
Well, I'll do that after I've cleaned it, but like now, I don't want green lips. My wife will be wondering, well, where you been?
With an alien.
You said you was going to the Leather Guild meeting. That don't look like Leather Guild.
You're dating an alien.
Green lips, you know.
Well, that's after they're clean.
But after they're clean,
Been
yeah.
down by the
And
new
quiet.
Or
place.
you can
I
kind
think
of
we
wet your
do
hand
that.
and
You
use
just like the alcohol.
use the crease in your hand.
There's also too, if you want to reshape your paintbrushes, if your paintbrushes get out of whack, like
Yeah, it's a
you've got
couple
a
of them
couple
in
there,
yep.
you know, a good way to put them back into shape?
Well,
Egg whites.
really, I didn't know that.
Egg whites.
Egg whites. Okay.
Yep.
Very good. But I usually just do like
Let
you
them
do,
dry
just-
with
Well, it
egg
can be
white
kinda
on
hard
it.
in your frying pan.
Yes. Let them dry with egg white on them.
And then what, how do you get the egg white out?
You just rinse it.
Rinse it out.
Water just takes it right out.
Yeah.
Don't put it in boiling water. You got boiled egg.
That's when you lick it.
No dirt.
As long as they're clean, you don't get the dye on
After you
you.
cook the eggs, right?
Marlon, where'd you say you got that color, Will?
I think I got it from Azalard.
Oh, Hobby Lobby and Michael's probably have them.
Hobby Lobby's my store, 40% off coupon.
Yeah.
Every other week.
I do get a lot.
I
of
think
stuff
I've even
I
seen
buy.
those at some Walmarts.
Well,
back
if
in
you go
their
to
craft- yeah, out in their craft area.
If you go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's, check out the Grumbacher brushes, because they're inexpensive, Grumbacher. They're inexpensive and they're good quality sables. They're just not very expensive.
Well, that's why I was asking you about your paintbrushes, because in order to get something with a point on it like that, so I could get into the really fine background, and I had to end up buying a teeny tiny
Yeah,
brush,
see,
and I
a lot of the
looking
cheap
for
brushes,
a
yeah, a lot of
quality
cheap
brush.
brushes will be great when you first start.
Yeah.
But after,
They frizz out.
yeah, they get
They
real
frizz out.
frizzy and stuff.
Yep.
What you want to look for is that. It'll pop right back.
Yep.
That's what you want to look for.
Spring.
You get that spring, you're good to go. You know, and I don't think you have to buy the absolute best brush, but if you buy a really good set of brushes, they'll last you forever if you take care of them.
I used to do oil
I'm-
painting and you spend
Yeah.
a lot
You did.
of money on brushes.
Yeah, you did.
And if you, I'm of the school of thought, if you pay for it once, pay real good money for it once, you shouldn't have to do it again. So get the good ones if you can. Now my acrylic brushes, I just use anything, because I know they're gonna load up and get flat and gummed up and stuff.
Y'all want to hear a trick I found out too? You know how we always make up a slurry of rubber cement and leather dust to stuff the back of our embossing? Well, you know, what do you call it? Invention. What do you call it? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
Well, as an artist, we gesso our canvases before we paint them.
Do who to it?
Gesso them. It's a product called gesso.
It's
that you-
white.
It's white. And it
It's like a
hardens.
paint.
And it hardens. You can build up your canvas if you want to put a lot of texture on your canvas. You can build it up with gesso even. You know, I use a pretty firm base gesso. I was doing an embossing one time at home, and I thought, man, I gotta have something to put in the back. I don't have enough leather dust, and so I was kind of playing around with it. I used that firm gesso, left it for a few days. It dried, and the front of my emboss is just as firm as it can be.
Very cool.
Yeah, it worked great.
Hey, there you go. And then you don't have
I
to
just
spend
filled
all
it
the
in
time.
like a spoon